Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another Tyranid Learning Curve video for you, and today we're going to look at Warlord traits from the Tyranid Codex. So I'm going to run through each one and just see how useful they are. So first of all, we're going to look at Nature's Bane. Now, the one in the actual codex is totally out of date to the description because there's been an FAQ for it, so I'm going to read from there. So at the beginning of each of your movement phases, you may select one Twisted Corpse terrain piece within 12 inches of your Warlord. That terrain piece becomes dangerous terrain and remains so for the remainder of the game. So quite an interesting one there, because, well, basically any forest, it says Twisted Corpse, but you know, it's any forest, jungle piece of terrain. So first of all, you're going to be lucky to have any jungle forest terrain on the table, to be fair. I mean, I won't. For my Necron table terrain, I mean, there's no forests there. So first of all, you're going to be lucky to find a piece of jungle terrain. And then, it's only 12 inches that it affects the piece of terrain. And now the chances are that you're actually going to be using the terrain. So making it dangerous, I don't know if it's actually really worth it. I suppose from a defense point of view, if you were sort of hiding behind terrain, could be useful to make it dangerous terrain for when your opponent attacks you, but more likely than not, you're going to be in the terrain yourself. So I don't know. I think that one is pretty useless, and I think if you roll that one, unless you're particularly in a jungle environment, then I would suggest you re-roll it. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one there, heightened senses. The Warlord and all friendly models from the Codex Tyranids within 12 inches of it have the night vision special rule. So that is pretty useful. All models within 12 inches. That's a good range. Whether you're going to have the right shooting to really warrant that, I don't know. It's very difficult with these Warlord traits because more often than not they don't do a great deal, and let's face it, more often than not you forget to use them anyway, especially if it's like only a half decent one, and I would say that's pretty, not really that decent, to be fair. So I would I'd normally forget that one, but there you go. The third one, synaptic linchpin. Your Warlord has a synapse range of 18 inches. That is pretty useful. I mean, that's a good one, especially if you couple that with your Primaris power, where you can extend your synapse range 6 inches. That means you can have a 24-inch synapse range on your creature, so on your Warlord. So that is a really useful one. So if you get that one, I would suggest you keep it. To be fair, it's very useful. The next one is Mind Eater. Your army gains 2 victory points for each enemy model with the independent character special rule, slain by your Warlord in a challenge. Killing an independent character as the result of a sweeping advance does not award this victory points. Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds good, doesn't it? 2 extra victory points. But honestly, are you going to get your Warlord in close combat against an independent character and issue a challenge? It's very circumstantial. I usually don't. My Warlord is usually just flying around the table. He only lands if he's taking objectives at the end of the game. So I would say not a great one. So far, out of the first 4, I would say that the synaptic linchpin is probably the best. Continuing on, we have Digestive Denial. After deployment, but before scout redeployments and infiltrate deployments, nominate one piece of terrain in your enemy deployment zone. This may not be one your opponent has purchased as part of their army. The terrain piece's cover save is reduced by 1 for the duration of the game to a minimum of 6. Note that the piece of terrain can only be affected by this ability once. Okay, now this does sound very interesting. I mean, being able to minus your cover saves for your opponents, very useful, and I have used it. There is one little side note on this which I've discovered just literally through gameplay. When I had my Toxicrene in a drop pod, my plan was to drop the pod down and then get the Toxicrene in a building to give me a 2+ cover save, because obviously he has the Shrouded special rule. Now, what I forgot is that I actually made that piece of terrain -1 save, so actually I only got a 3+ save, and I actually took some wounds on that in that game on the Toxicrene, purely because of my Warlord trait. So something to be mindful if you are using this. If there's any point of the game you are considering that you might actually need that piece of terrain for yourself, then yeah, maybe don't use the Digestive Denial on it. Okay, the last one is Adaptive Biology. If the Warlord suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds, it gains the Feel No Pain special rule at the beginning of its next movement phase and keeps it for the remainder of the game. So that sounds pretty good. Obviously there is a chance you may get your Psychic Power Feel No Pain anyway. And of course on this one you do have to suffer a wound before you get it, and then you don't get it until the next next movement phase. So it's good, it's not that great. I mean, out of all of those, I think you really have to say that Synaptic Linchpin is probably the best one. I think overall they're pretty poor Warlord traits. I know Warlord traits aren't that great, but yeah, I'm not actually that impressed with these, to be honest. I would like to get your feedback. What do you think of the Warlord traits? Do you forget the Warlord traits? Because I know I often do. You know, how do you get on with them? Let me know in the description, in the comments box. As always, this is a series designed basically to get some comments and some suggestions in both directions, from me to you and from you to me. So I look forward to reading your comments on that, and we'll watch out for another learning curve coming soon.